Yes, good morning students. Now we are going to discuss the World Trade Organization. Hope you remember in last class what we have discussed about the liberalization, privatization and globalization, isn't it? Then in the globalization, what is the concept? It is the opening up of home economy into foreign trade. Yes, before 1991 we were under the condition of government rules, trade policy was adopted and we had a tariff and quotas like a quantitative restriction, tariff which means tax imposed on goods and services, and quota which means quantity of a goods which is allotted to import. So many things was there, and later on the WTO, it is the international organization to maintain the friendly relationship with all the members, trade friendly relationship with the member countries. Okay ma. So when it was came into existence, so WTO which means World Trade Organization. Okay, we are going to discuss the World Trade Organization. Before coming the term of World Trade Organization as authority, there was a agreement, which means before the existence of WTO, it was as a agreement, which means GATT. It was considered as General Agreement on Trade and Tariff was there ma. It was came into existence in 1948 and it is an agreement related to trade in goods. Okay, so later on in WTO, not only the goods and services also they included to facilitate the member countries to do the proper and smooth international trade. The WTO came. Now we are going to discuss about the GATT first. So GATT came into existence in 1948 and it is an agreement related to trade in goods. It was signed by 23 nations in Geneva on 30th October 1947 and took effect on 1st January 1948. Okay, it remained in effect until the signature by 123 nations in Marrakesh on 15th April 1994 of the Uruguay Round Agreements, which established the World Trade Organization in 1995. Remember, the WTO came in 1995, 1st January 1995. When in 1994, the 123 nations they have signed. So 125 the WTO came into existence. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the WTO. WTO is the successor of General Agreement on Trade and Tariff or Tariff and Trade, which is in short form GATT, G-A-T-T. The General Agreement on Tariff and Trade is a legal agreement between many countries whose overall purpose was to promote international trade by reducing or eliminating the trade barriers such as tariff and quotas. As I said, what do you mean by tariff? It is the tax imposed on goods and services. Quotas, which mean quantity of a goods that can be imported. Okay, so for that they have introduced WTO. About the WTO we are going to discuss. WTO came into existence on 1st January 1995. It's a main aim to liberalize the international trade. As I said, it is the outcome of globalization only. New economic policy 1991. After that, this is 1995 started. Okay, the World Trade Organization is the only global international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations. The goal is to help producers of goods and services, exporters and importers conduct their business. Okay, and WTO, there are a total of 164 members countries in the WTO. Okay, 164 at present with Liberia and Afghanistan being the newest member as of 2018. As a watchdog of international trade, WTO expect to reduce trade restriction. Here spelling mistake is there ma, it is expect, E-X-P-E-C-T. Expect to reduce the trade restrictions, enlarge the trade in services and ensure optimum utilization of world resources and protect the environment. Okay, so liberalize GATT only the agreement on trade and tariff and goods and service goods, but WTO including the services for trading. It establishes rules regarding international trade, sees that these rules are obeyed by member countries. Yes, this WTO work is not only making the rules but also watching whether the member countries are following the rules. And India is a founder member of WTO. The government of India has taken several steps to implement these agreements because India is a founder member of WTO. See what are the functions doing the WTO. Before WTO, it is the successor of GATT, I said. So GATT, when it was started, 1947 agreement signed and it came in effective on 1948. The same way 1994, 123 countries signed, and 1995 1st January came into existence WTO. At present we had a 164. They have a 164 member countries. See the organization structure is WTO, CEO, General Council and Ministry of Conference. Once in 2 years they conduct and oversee the trade in goods and services to act as a dispute settlement body between the member countries and trade policy review. Keep reviewing the trade policy. So these are the WTO organization and function. And we are in the conclusion of this chapter, which is Indian economy during reforms and assessment. Indian economy during reforms and assessment. See here what happened after the new economic reform. Hope you know that the government reduced the reduction on all sectors such as industrial sector, financial sector, tax reform, trade sector reform and everything they have done, but they ignored the agriculture sector. So we are going to discuss about that also. And one more thing, what happened about the growth and the development, which means GDP rate, what happened, whether the employment ratio was increased or not. Yes, we are going to discuss. The opening up of the economy has led to rapid increase in foreign direct investment, which is FDI, and foreign exchange reserves. Okay, even globalization insisted or increased the foreign exchange reserve. You know that background of new economic reforms, what I said, we had a shortage of foreign exchange reserve, not even have a sufficient money to import the petrol from foreign countries. Petrol payment also we had a debt. Okay, so that also increased after the new economic reform. And the foreign investment includes not only the foreign direct investment but also FII, which means foreign institutional investors were allowed to invest in India. Next, on the other hand, the reform process has been widely criticized for not being able to address some of the areas of employment, industry, infrastructure development and fiscal management and agriculture too. Okay, and Indian economy during reforms. What happened about the growth and development? Though the GDP growth has increased in the reform period, GDP, which means gross domestic product. Okay, it is the kind of national income, the total value of all final goods and services produced by the country in a year. During the reform period, the GDP was increased, but it was increased the employment opportunities sufficiently. So the scholars has pointed out the growth has not generated the sufficient employment opportunity. This situation generally we used to say it's a jobless growth. Jobless growth you will study in the poverty chapter poverty or an employment chapter, which means the country income is increasing but employment is not increasing. That situation only known as jobless growth. Okay, now what happened about the agriculture sector? What happened? Which means what is the status of agriculture sector during the new economic reforms? See here, the reform did not make much positive impact on agriculture. Yes, of course, they did not give more importance for the agricultural development. Being an agriculture economy, India is an agri economy, isn't it? So, though they did not contribute or they did not concern about the agriculture sector. See what happened? The investment in agriculture sector, especially in infrastructure, irrigation, roads, market linkages, research, reduced during the reform period. See, this and all they have reduced. The investment, the government used to invest in every year for these sectors also. So, that was reduced during the reform period and they concerned about the other sectors. And next one, fertilizer subsidies. Subsidy was removed, leading to rise in the cost of production. This has severely affected the small and marginal farmers. Yes, there was a subsidy, financial subsidy or discount rate of fertilizer was provided for the agricultural farmers, to the agricultural farmers. It was removed during the economic reform. This also affected the marginal and small farmers. And next one, measures like reduction in import duties on agricultural products, lifting of quantitative restrictions on agricultural products, etc. have adversely affected the Indian farmers, where they wanted to face international competition. You know that after the new economic reforms, the international competition, which means globalization, had come, no? So what happened? If they reduct means removing the import duty. They removed the quantitative restriction like tariff and quota, I said, no? So because of that, the people started purchasing the goods from foreign countries, and Indian product farmers or producer, they faced the loss. And one more thing, people did not have a subsidies or incentives to produce the things. So this also made farmers to face so much of financial crisis, and they have to face the competition, international competition in the market. So this was tough for the Indian farmers. Okay, and next one. Further, export-oriented policy strategy in agriculture has encouraged the farmers to enter export market and take up the cultivation of cash crops. This has led to rise in prices of food grains. Yes, the government introduced the EOU, export-oriented units or special economic zones, and all they have set up after the new economic reforms. And people got encouragement, or they got a crush on earning so much income through export. So through cash crops only they can earn the income. You had a cash crops in first chapter. That chapter is removed. Now I will tell you what do you mean by cash crop, which is commercial crops, which is not related to the food grains. The crops which give more income than the agricultural food grains. For example, cotton, then even tobacco, coffee, tea, and these kind of wheat also, sugar cane. These are all commercial crops or cash crops, which yield more income than the food grains. So people got, which means farmers got interested on cultivating the cash crop instead of producing the food grain. So this has led to increase in the price of food grains during the economic reforms. So overall, the economic reforms ignored, or they refused to concern about the infrastructure, employment opportunity, agriculture sector, etc. So these are the small drawbacks or criticism of new economic reforms. Overall, if you come to criticize the new economic reform, of course we have improved globally. We are the competitor for global level. And the private sector participation improved the quality of all the department, and the government sector also started improving their quality by seeing the private sector. And so many things are though also is there in a positive side, but negative side they refused or they ignored the development of agriculture. Being an agriculture economy, they have to concern about the agriculture sector also. So this chapter is winding up, so again I will tell you, we have discussed the liberalization, privatization, globalization of new economic reforms, which was introduced in 1991, and WTO was founded in 1995. Who is the founder member of WTO? India. Okay, so hope you remember and go through all the concepts. Thank you children, keep learning. Thank you all.